Hi everyone, thank you for joining us today at our February Lunch and Learn. Today we have Cassandra Zabel presenting, MPH, RD, LD, and Certified Diabetes Care and Education Specialist. She'll be talking about eating healthy for your heart during February American Heart Month. Thank you so much for coming.
But of course, as much as this is focused on heart health, a lot of these tips and things are great for whatever health goals that you have. So definitely things that will help keep your heart healthy, whether you have heart disease, prevent it, or just generally eat a healthy diet. So kind of just to start is kind of an overview of kind of a depiction of the general rules for a heart healthy diet or a heart healthy meal plan. And then we'll jump into each of the categories a little bit more in detail, but this kind of highlights that there's, we hear a lot about good foods and bad foods, and there's not necessarily just good and bad. It's a spectrum of different foods, and some things we should be eating a lot more often, and some things should be in much smaller portions or much less frequently. And so this graph kind of depicts the things in the green towards the yellow section are things that we should be including every day or with much more frequency, all the way down to the things in the red category, which should be eaten pretty sparingly or in limited portions or limited quantities. So obviously it kind of highlights that we're focused more on a whole foods, plant-based diet by having more fruits and vegetables, whole grains, healthy fats, getting in some starchy vegetables or beans and legumes, and then smaller portions of like fish and eggs and poultry, all the way down to things that are more processed or higher in sugar that should be eaten much less often. And so it kind of just gives that visual representation of an overall picture of the diet, and then we're going to kind of jump into some of the different categories more in detail and talk about why these things should be eaten more often or less often, but kind of keeping in mind that you want to be sticking mostly towards the green section of the graph for your everyday meals and snacks. So to start with, we're going to talk about vegetables. We all know vegetables are a great thing that we should be eating more of. And the reason for that is they're full of fiber and antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, some phytochemicals or phytonutrients that are basically plant-based compounds that provide a lot of health benefits. And so we want to be including these in our diet. It really should be the biggest portion of your plate, the biggest portion of each meal or each snack should really be vegetable-based. Because of that fiber that they have, they're really going to fill you up and keep you from overeating maybe some of the other categories of foods that are on your plate that should be eaten in smaller portions. So by filling up on vegetables, you can feel like your meal is satisfying and filling you up without getting excess calories or excess carbs or sugar that would be from the other foods on your plate. So aiming for at least 5 servings per day is the goal, and a serving is anywhere from a half a cup to a cup depending on the vegetable or whether it's cooked or raw, but assuming just a half cup minimum, that would be 2.5 cups of vegetables per day spread throughout all of your meals. More is always better. Vegetables is the one food group or food category that really can be eaten in unlimited amounts as long as it's a non-starchy vegetable. So everything except corn, peas, potatoes, and winter squash. So all the other non-starchy vegetables, broccoli and cauliflower and lettuce and all of those really can be eaten with no limit, but you want to aim for at least 5 servings in a day. And as the picture kind of shows, it's really important to get a variety of colors. So that whole eating the rainbow is really important because all of the different vegetables, the different colors are actually created by the different vitamins or minerals. So eating a variety of colors throughout the day and throughout your entire diet is really going to help make sure you get a variety of those vitamins and minerals. Some of the dark green leafy vegetables, spinach and broccoli, should be a big part of it, but then making sure you get the red and the yellow and the purple vegetables as well. The next category, of course, that you should be eating is fruits, right? And fruits are a great addition. Same thing with the vegetables. You want to get a variety of colors, and they're going to provide all of those antioxidants and vitamins and minerals along with fiber. Separately from vegetables, though, fruit should be the goal is at least 2 to 3 servings per day, but you always want to have more vegetables in your diet than fruit. The main reason being that fruit has natural sugar. And while it is natural sugar, so it's a healthy source of that sugar, we don't want to eat fruit in unlimited amounts. We always want to be having more vegetables than fruits, but still making sure that we include at least 2 to 3 servings per day to get in the vitamins and minerals that are really provided through fruit. So making sure to include those. They make a great snack or in addition to a meal to get some of those health healthy benefits and vitamins and minerals. Whole grains is kind of the next piece of a plant-based diet that we want to make sure that we're including. Again, a good source of fiber because it has that whole grain still intact compared to a more refined grain like white bread. So with whole grain, we're talking about like whole wheat bread. You're going to get more B vitamins and energy. So whole grains are a great thing to include. We often hear about aim to make at least half your grains whole, and that's a great minimum, but even better is to make all of your grains whole. In an ideal diet, we'd be eating all of our grains from whole grains rather than trying just for half. So aim to make all of your grains whole grains. So that would be things like whole grain bread or whole wheat bread. You want to make sure the label says 100% whole grain or 100% whole wheat as the first ingredient on bread products to know that you're getting a whole grain bread product. But brown rice instead of white rice is brown rice is going to be the whole grain version, but even trying to incorporate other types of grains that are maybe eaten a little bit less commonly, like millet or barley. Quinoa is a great whole grain to add or use it even as a rice substitute. It's going to be a little bit higher in fiber and protein than even rice. So quinoa can be a great addition for a whole grain. Even old-fashioned oats or steel-cut oats are a whole grain. The big thing to make sure here is that you're not eating instant oats. Instant oats would be the refined version, whereas old-fashioned oats or steel-cut oats are going to be the whole grain version. And the importance of those whole grains not only is those B vitamins and some of those nutrients that are in the whole grain, but they're going to be higher in fiber. And fiber is going to be the piece of the fruits and the vegetables and the whole grains that really helps keep you full and fill you up, and it's going to be good for digestion and helping with heart health. And so making sure that you're getting a lot of high fiber food sources is going to be the key to the fruits and the vegetables and the whole grains. The next category from that really green section of that original graph was the healthy fats. And this is kind of extra important when we're talking about a heart healthy diet. A lot of times with heart health, we hear about low fat diets. And it's really not about low fat, but just as with any other foods, there's healthier fats and there's less healthy fats. And we do want to reduce the less healthy fats, but we don't want to have a low fat diet to the point where we're eliminating the healthy fats from our diet. So we want more of a right fat diet rather than a low fat diet. And so the healthy fats are important to be included as part of a heart healthy diet and really should be a part of all of your meals every day. Healthy fats are going to help not only with heart health, but they're going to be one of the things along with protein that helps keep you full between meals and keeps you from maybe wanting to snack on as many things, which might be less healthy choices. So they're actually something that we want to include in a heart healthy diet. So we're going to talk about some of these more in detail, but nuts and seeds, avocado, fatty fish, healthy oils like olive oil are all things that we want to include, and getting a variety. We don't want all of our healthy fats just to come from fish or just from avocado. We want to include a variety of those because, again, all of the different foods have different vitamins and minerals, and so having that variety is going to make sure we get not only the healthy fats, but all of the other important nutrients that come with that. So the first part, or the first kind of type of fat that we're talking about, that really one of the healthiest sources is going to be your unsaturated fat, and in this case, the monounsaturated fat. And these are going to be really important to include because they're going to lower your bad cholesterol or your LDL. They're going to raise your good cholesterol or your HDL, the one we want to actually be higher. They're going to help lower blood pressure. They're going to reduce inflammation. And because of all of those things, they're going to reduce the risk of heart disease long term. And so we want to make sure we're including these in small portions. So some of the healthiest sources of monounsaturated fats would be nuts, nut butters, so like peanut butter, but you want to make sure it's a peanut butter or any nut butter that's made with just nuts and salt. You don't want ones with a lot of added sugar because then that's going to make it a little bit of a less healthy choice. So nut butters can be a great way to add in some healthy fats. So even just if you're having toast in the morning, swapping the butter on your toast for a nut butter, you're going to switch from maybe a less healthy fat to a more healthy fat. Avocado and avocado oil are going to be great. Even just adding a few slices of avocado to the top of a salad or adding it onto a sandwich can be a great way to get in a small portion at your meals. Same with olives or olive oil. Great things to add on or use in your cooking. So trying to just add small portions of these to every meal or to most meals is going to provide you with some of those heart healthy benefits that we're going to get from those heart healthy fats. And so not being, you don't want to go overboard. Even too much of a good thing cannot be a great thing, but making sure you're including small portions with each of your meals of these types of fats. The other kind of really heart-healthy fat is going to be your polyunsaturated fat, specifically omega-3 fats. And a lot of us have heard of omega-3 fats in relation to fish oil or omega-3 supplements. And that is one way to get in those omega-3s. But the reason that omega-3s are so important is not only that they raise the good cholesterol, or that heart-healthy cholesterol that we want to be higher, but they really have a big impact on lowering triglycerides. And triglycerides are another type of fat in the blood that we really want to keep lower when we're aiming to have heart health and prevent any chronic conditions. So omega-3s have a really big impact on making sure that we have a healthy triglyceride level. They're going to help promote healthy cells and healthy cell walls, so your cells can communicate and send all the right messages to have a healthy metabolism. They're going to really help reduce inflammation, so there's a lot of anti-inflammatory properties with omega-3s. And because of all of those things, it's really going to reduce the risk of heart disease, but also cancer and arthritis and other conditions that are associated with inflammation. So we want to make sure we're getting more omega-3s in our diet, and in general, Americans don't get enough omega-3s in their diet. So that's one that we want to really focus on, make sure that we're including more healthy sources of omega-3s in our diet. Fatty fish is going to be one of the most common, so something like salmon or halibut or tuna. Really, you should be eating fish at least a couple of times a week in order to get those omega-3s. If you're not eating fish or some of these other nuts and seeds that we're going to talk about for omega-3s, it might be worth talking to your doctor about whether an omega-3 supplement is appropriate, but it's definitely something you want to talk to your doctor about because they're not right for everyone, but they can be helpful in cases where you're not getting omega-3s from your food. But of course, we always want to make sure we're trying the food first approach and eating these healthy fats in our diet so that we're getting all the other benefits, not just the omega-3s that come in fish and nuts and seeds. Chia seeds and flax seeds can be a great way to add omega-3s to your diet if you don't like fish. And they're something that's easy to sprinkle on top of oatmeal in the morning or yogurt, or on top of a salad at lunch or dinner, or even into a soup. So they can be a great way to get those omega-3s without having the fish. The one key there is with flaxseed, oftentimes they are in foods whole, and they provide a great source of fiber when they're whole flax seeds. But if you want to get the omega-3s out of those flax seeds, you need to grind them up. Our bodies can't digest the whole flaxseed. So if you eat them whole, you're getting the fiber, but you're not getting the omega-3. So make sure that you're adding some portions of these foods to your diet every day so that you're getting some of those heart-healthy omega-3 fats into your diet. And then the last part of that kind of upper green-yellow part of our graph of things that we want to be including in our diet every day would be protein. Protein, of course, is essential for building muscle and making enzymes within the body and repairing our skin and our tissues. So we want to make sure we're including it. But one thing we want to focus on, especially with heart health, is getting more plant-based proteins into our diet instead of animal-based proteins. So sometimes either swapping a whole meal for plant-based proteins over animal proteins, or even just lessening the amount of protein from animal proteins and replacing that with some plant-based proteins. So beans and legumes are going to be a great way to get some plant-based proteins. So legumes being things like lentils, and you can use those in soups. You can have them as a side dish. You can put beans or lentils in a salad in order to get the protein in. So those are always a great option. Tempeh is a good option for a plant-based protein. A lot of times we'll see tofu on these things, and tofu is an option as well. But tempeh has a little bit more of a dense nutrient profile. So tofu being made from soybean milk, whereas tempeh is actually the fermented whole soybean. So it has a little bit more nutrient density, a little bit more than tofu. But in addition, because it's a fermented food or a fermented soybean, we get a lot of health benefits from fermented foods for introducing some healthy bacteria into our guts, good digestion. So not only are you getting a plant-based protein, which is good for your heart, you're getting a little bit more of that, introducing some fermented foods into the diet as well. So it's kind of an extra benefit. And then, of course, nuts and seeds. We talked about those in relation to healthy fats, but they also have protein. So again, it's kind of another 2-for-1 benefit. If you swap out something else for like nut butter or nuts and seeds on your salad, you're getting healthy fats and protein at the same time. So try to incorporate more of those into your diet and really lessen the amount of animal proteins. But when you do choose animal proteins, you want to make sure you choose healthier, leaner cuts of animal proteins. So fish, again, because you're going to get some of those omega-3s, but poultry and eggs can also be healthy, leaner choices for animal proteins. And you want to make sure that you're not having a giant portion of protein at your meal. So remember, we talked about vegetables being half of your plate. So we want to make sure our protein is like 3 to 5 ounces, or like roughly the palm of your hand or the quarter of your plate. So making sure that it's a much smaller portion of your plate compared to those fruits and vegetables and other plant-based items. So kind of on the flip side of that, we really want to focus on all of the good things that you should be eating and the good things you should be including to your diet. But in order to really have a heart-healthy diet, we also want to make sure we mention some of the things that you should eat less of. So these are those things at the red end of that graph, and things that should be in much smaller portions or much less often than all the other things that we just talked about. The first one being processed meats. So this would be things like deli meat, hot dogs, sausage, and those types of things. One, they're a lot higher in sodium, which we didn't really talk about a lot so far, but sodium and reducing our sodium intake is important for blood pressure and heart health. So they're higher in sodium, but they're also associated with an increased risk for colon cancer. So we really want to be focused more on whole, healthy proteins like the poultry and the fish and the eggs, more so than processed meats. Same goes for red meat. Really, we want to be limiting our red meat and focusing more on the plant-based proteins and poultry and fish. But if you do have red meat, it's like once to twice a week would be a good limit. And it's a good reminder that red meat includes not only beef, but it does include pork as well. So trying to limit both of those. And then processed and refined grains, both are things that we should limit. So refined grains being things like white rice or white bread, and processed foods, of course, being cookies and pretzels and chips and all of our frozen and packaged shelf-stable type foods. Again, they're going to be higher in sodium. They're going to be higher in the unhealthy fats compared to the healthy fats. And so we definitely want to have less of those things. And then one of the most important things, especially in a heart-healthy diet, is to have foods that are lower in sugar and avoiding those really high sugar foods. So of course that includes like cakes and cookies and pies and things that we know have added sugar, but it really also includes a lot of those hidden sources of sugar. So things like salad dressing or barbecue sauce or ketchup, things that we don't necessarily taste sweet, but can have a lot of hidden sources of sugar, similar to the way we talked about peanut butter can have added sugar, or you can get just peanuts and salt type of peanut butter. So not only lowering the amount of added sugar foods and sugary beverages and desserts, but really being a label detective and finding those foods that have added sugar and eating those in much smaller portions or swapping them out for a no sugar added version. So that's probably, if there's one thing that we do with heart health, it would definitely be reducing our sugar intake. So to kind of put it all together, some tips to kind of help you add in these things and make these changes to your diet is, one is to cook with healthier oils. So things like olive oil and avocado oil are going to have those heart healthy fats, and they're going to be great things to cook with. Olive oil, however, is designed to be more of a cold or low heat type oil, so it's great for salad dressings or dips or low heat sauteing, but you definitely don't want to cook with olive oil at higher temperatures. It will kind of change some of those healthy fats. Whereas if you're cooking at higher temperatures, avocado oil can be a great way because it does have a higher smoke point, so it can handle higher temperatures and still give you the heart healthy benefits. So try cooking with healthier oils or using healthier oils in your kitchen. Use healthier cooking methods. So instead of sauteing in butter or frying or some of those things, try to bake or broil or steam your foods, because then you're going to not introduce unhealthy fats through frying or other cooking methods. So try using those healthier cooking methods and use a variety of cooking methods. You might find you like certain foods baked, but certain foods steamed, and so you might be able to increase the variety in your diet by using a variety of cooking methods so that you can find the way you prefer it. Limit your sauces and gravies. It's not that you can't have them at all, but one great way is to just put those things on the side, and so you can dip in them and add a look here and there without covering your entire meal or your entire food item in a sauce or a gravy. The sauces and gravies can be big hidden sources of salt and sugar and unhealthy fats. The other thing you can do is find healthier versions. So maybe as a sauce you use salsa instead of a a different type of sauce. And salsa is, tomato is pretty much like a vegetable. So you could use something like a salsa as a sauce instead of one of the other more traditional sauces or gravies. And then along with we've mentioned a couple times about limiting sodium, but herbs and spices are a great way to add flavor to limit the amount of salt you use, but also they provide a lot of antioxidants and phytonutrients or plant-based compounds that are really good for health and especially heart health. So one, it's going to give you a lot of flavor for your food. You can change up, you can take zucchini and totally change it from day to day by adding different spices, so you can get more variety, but also more flavor and some of the antioxidant compounds that come in herbs and spices. Don't be afraid to experiment. A lot of times we try to figure out, well, what spice would go great with this food? There's no right or wrong. It's really about your taste and your preferences. So don't be afraid to experiment with different spice combinations or different herbs and find the ones that you like, or kind of mix it up a little bit. And kind of get out there and do different things. Make sure you're, trying to keep your spices fresh, because that will, or not necessarily just fresh, but even the dried ones, don't have them in your cupboard for 5 years because they'll lose their flavor and you won't find that really strong flavor from some older spices that you've had in your cupboard for a long time. And then get creative with vegetables. We really want to up our vegetable intake, and sometimes it can get a little boring to just eat steamed broccoli all the time. So one, herbs and spices to change the flavor. Try different, cooking methods. So try roasted vegetables. Even roasted broccoli is going to taste very differently than steamed broccoli. So try cooking them different ways. Try adding them to your dishes. If you're making a casserole, up the casserole volume by adding vegetables. Anything you can do to kind of change the way you're cooking them, or the flavor, or the variety, so that you don't get tired of just eating the same vegetable all the time is going to be great. So a few examples, changing your yogurt, right? So if you buy a store-bought yogurt, it's going to be full of sugar. So changing it to a plain yogurt or a plain Greek yogurt and adding your own fruit is going to cut the sugar content and still give you the flavor. Even if you add a drizzle, like a teaspoon of honey, it'll add a little bit of sugar, but it will be much less sugar than what is in the store-bought version. Same if you swap your granola for a nut, or a nut-based granola that doesn't have sugar added. So it's not always about changing completely what you eat, but just choosing healthier options of the foods that you are eating in your diet. Another example would be an egg sandwich for breakfast. Adding some vegetables, even if you are having the egg sandwich or making it at home or switching it to a whole wheat bun, is going to improve it. But even swapping it to an omelet or scrambled eggs with vegetables and maybe some avocado or a little bit of cheese is going to really improve the nutrient profile, get you some vegetables at breakfast, and still fill you up and can keep you full longer. Another example would be spaghetti. So one, even just taking this spaghetti that's on the left-hand side and cutting it in half and pairing it with a salad or some other type of vegetable would be a good step. But you could also swap the meatballs for a turkey meatball, and be cautious with the sauce because that can be a hidden source of sugar. But even better would be to swap it for the noodles themselves for something like spaghetti squash or zucchini noodles or other vegetable-based noodle. So you're kind of adding in those vegetables and upping the vegetable content while still getting a pasta type dish. And sometimes even while you're making that transition is doing half real noodles and half squash noodles. So you kind of get a feel for both if you're kind of working on making that transition or just trying to up the vegetable content in the regular noodles that you are eating. Salads can be a great choice, but you have to be cautious with salads because we can add enough toppings to make salads actually an unhealthy choice. So with fried chicken and bacon and ranch dressing and croutons, it can turn out to be not as healthy of a choice as we had intended it to be. So switching your salads to grilled chicken or even a plant-based protein like beans or tempeh or something like that. And then swapping your dressing, right? So things like ranch and blue cheese are going to be a lot higher in the unhealthy fats. So swapping them to an oil and vinegar based dressing. Again, be cautious because some vinaigrettes can have a lot of sugar added, but if it's just an oil and vinegar type dressing with a small amount or no added sugar, it's going to be a great choice. Or even just using oil or balsamic vinegar as your salad dressing. And then adding in healthy sources, so maybe swapping out the croutons for nuts or seeds to get that crunch, but also add in some healthy fats. So really making sure your salads are vegetable based with maybe a little bit of fruit or nuts, or other things added to them. Because remember, protein and healthy fats are part of what keeps you full. So if you have just vegetables on your salad, you probably will be hungry in an hour or two. But if you add some nuts or seeds or protein of some sort, that's going to help keep you full until your next meal and get you a really healthy salad. And our last example is our traditional meat and potatoes, right? So we don't want to have a meat portion that takes up a large portion of our plate with potatoes, but even making that portion of meat smaller, so that 3 to 4 ounces, and making sure you're including vegetables, right? That goal of half a plate of non-starchy vegetables. And with the potato, instead of a fried potato, try for something that's baked or broiled, or even swap it for a sweet potato. Sweet potato is going to have a little bit more fiber, a little bit more nutrient density, and it's going to be a little bit of a healthier choice, but still give you that meat and potato feel for your dish. So those are all some small swaps, some of them bigger than others, but they're all swaps that you can make to your meals where you're still eating similar foods to what you're used to eating, but just adding some heart health benefits, reducing the sugar, reducing the salt, and increasing the vegetable intake. So it's always important to find a meal plan that works for you. Everybody's needs are individualized and can change based on your overall health or your health goals or any medical conditions you have. But these are a lot of really good general guidelines that apply to most everyone. But if you do have questions or want more information on some specific tailored individualized needs, it's always a good idea to work with a registered dietitian for some individualized specific recommendations. So in that sense, we do have you can contact the Diabetes and Nutrition Center. We'd be happy to schedule an appointment, or if you have any questions right now, I'd be happy to answer some questions. Otherwise, thank you for joining our presentation on heart healthy nutrition.
Thank you so much, Cassandra. Yes, February is American Heart Month. Your presentation was perfect. March is National Nutrition Month. It's all getting tied together.
February, March is a great month to focus on nutrition.
Exactly, especially after the holidays. I know, with COVID on top of that, it's probably been even harder than usual, trying to stick to healthy foods like you suggested. And I love the examples at the end. There is a question, and I realize it's almost 12:30. If anyone has to hop off, please feel free to. But the question in the chat is, have you ever heard of a sugar detox? What is this, and what are your thoughts on it?
I would say, I've heard of them. That can have a variety of meanings. So different people use the word sugar detox to mean a lot of different things. I think in the general context of reducing sugar intake, sometimes if you're used to having a lot of sugar in your diet, when you eliminate sugar and kind of go on what some people might refer to as a sugar detox by just getting rid of added sugars and processed sugars from their diet, the body takes some time to readjust and change their taste buds. And so some people refer to that as a sugar detox, and it does. It helps when you cut out the sugar and kind of make it through that period of time where you're having some sugar cravings and allow your taste buds and your taste preferences to readjust. Then later on, you can add in small amounts of sugar and you won't crave it as much. And so in that sense, it can be a good thing to kind of eliminate all added sugars for a period of time and then kind of get rid of your cravings for them and then be able to include them in small portions. But if other people can mean different things by a sugar detox, but hopefully that answers the question.
Did anyone have anything else they wanted to ask Cassandra? If you don't want to type it out, if you don't want to ask her right now, she has provided the contact number for her department here at Good Shepherd. And I believe she's on a team of registered dietitians, so someone will probably get to them relatively quickly. But if no one has any other thoughts or questions, we can end it here.
Yeah, feel free to reach out. We do have 5 dietitians at Good Shepherd, so myself or one of the other 5 dietitians will be happy to reach out and answer any questions.
Well, thank you so much again, Cassandra. Really appreciate your time and your knowledge on this topic.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.